Hello and welcome to a horribly nerdy podcast, the podcast that's so bad, horrible is in its name. And on this podcast, we talk about movies, comic books, the paranormal, and all kinds of nerdy stuff. And because I really wanted to delve into some 80s and 90s trash horror films, just those B movies that you would see on, when you used to go to movie stores and rental places and stuff, and you'd see these crazy VHSs with this crazy art, and you're like, what the heck is that? Just that craziness. And the first one I want to talk about is The Kindred. Now, I want to give you a little backstory with this because the Kindred and I have a little bit of a history. So, there was a chain of video rental places called Family Video. And when they were phasing out their VHSs, I went and bought a bunch of VHSs. And one of the VHS was The Kindred. I loved the box art. The synopsis sounded amazing. It sounded something right up my alley. And so I was all for it. So I bought all the VHSs, bought a bunch of stuff, Kindred included. And then I put them on my shelf, and I never got around to watching it. So then a couple years goes by and VHSs aren't as popular anymore. Blu-ray and DVD, are now at their height. So we have a garage sale. I sell all my VHSs, 500 plus, for like $15. This, of course, now VHSs are like worth money, of course. Now I'm so mad I got rid of all my stuff because I had some really good stuff. Anyways, The Kindred was one of them. And so once I got rid of that, I was like, oh crap. So I looked for a DVD or Blu-ray of The Kindred and nothing. There was a horrible copy on YouTube at one point, and I was like, no, I don't want to watch some kind of crappy taped off VHS and put on YouTube version of this. I want to see a clean version. So I held out. Well, last year, The Kindred was released on a limited edition steelbook, and I bought that thing, and I finally just got around to watching it, and I am so mad at myself for taking so long to watch this film because I love this movie. It is batshit crazy. There are slow parts. There is a dog death, unfortunately, so it gets knocked a point for that. But what it makes up for in that is it's kind of slow. There's not a ton of gore really until like the end of the film. But what's amazing about it is there's enough set pieces and the acting's pretty decent. And there's some twists along the way that keep you invested and keep you interested in the film. But what blows all that away is the practical effects of the creature. Amazing practical effects. I loved this creature so much. I was blown away, and especially at the end when you see it and it's all its glory and everything. So much work went into that practical effects. It was amazing. I loved it. Couldn't get enough. So what is The Kindred about? Well, a geneticist takes his assistants to his old family home to locate the deadly product of his late mother's revolutionary research into rapid human evolution, his monstrous tentacled baby brother, before a mad scientist gets to him first. And that's all I'm going to say about this film because it was awesome. Twists and turns, didn't see coming. There's a character in there that you're kind of shady of, and boy, oh boy, when it's revealed, you're like, I knew it, I freaking knew it, but then what happens to them, you're like, whoa, holy crap, I did not see that coming. Awesome. 100% awesome. This film has so much practical effect goodiness. I was so satisfied. I was not disappointed. I was so happy that I got to see this film finally. I'm so glad I bought that steelbook Blu-ray. That thing is now one of my prized possessions. I love it so much. It looks awesome. The artwork on it is amazing. I'm so happy to have added this to my collection. Now, I'm going to check. I don't think there's a lot of trivia for this, so let's take a look. Yes, so Synapse is the one that released it on the Blu-ray DVD combo on December 14th, 2021, and that is about all the trivia you have for this. There isn't a lot behind the scenes, unfortunately. There might be on the Blu-ray itself. I haven't got around to seeing the checking out the special features and all that. I will, and when I do, if there is any behind the scenes stuff that I find super interesting, I will definitely add that in at some point. But for now, that's all I'm going to talk about this. I was super excited to check it out. The Kindred, if you can track down a copy, I highly recommend it. You will not be disappointed, especially if you're a practical effects geek like I am. You will not be disappointed. Now, let's talk about a film I was highly disappointed in. And we're going to talk about Arcade, 1993 Full Moon Pictures. I had always seen this box art and it looked really interesting. And I was like, okay, cool. This will be kind of good. And it's free on Tubi right now. So I was like, I'll check it out. Basically, a virtual reality game begins taking over the minds of teenagers, and one young teenager must put all of her strengths to the test to defeat the game. And holy crap, this was dumb. This was a really, really stupid movie. I did not like this movie at all. The CGI is terrible, and I get it. It's like early 90s, understandable, but I was not excited for this film at all. I mean, I was not happy about this film at all. I was kind of excited for it, but boy, I was highly, highly disappointed. And that's not a knock on Full Moon Pictures, because I love Full Moon. They have some really good stuff, Puppet Master, stuff like that. This one unfortunately, it just did nothing for me. It wasn't good to me. I was highly disappointed. Here's a little bit of trivia about it. The true reason for the change in the film's original CGI FX was due to the Walt Disney Company having threatened to sue Full Moon Entertainment due to the original design of the sky cycles resembling the light cycles from Tron, which were notably featured in the advertising material, including various trailers. This is what also led to the film's February 1993 release being postponed. Had the trailer and poster not featured the original sky cycle design, Disney would not have noticed the similarities until later on, and then they would file their suit against Full Moon, not delaying the project. Peter Billingsley, which plays a character named Nick, also took part in doing some of the film's CGI effects. This film is well noted for its trouble getting released. It was originally set to arrive on video in 1991 before being pushed to September of 92, as well as 93, and eventually came out in March of 1994. This film was made back-to-back with Dollman, and Dollman is one of Full Moon's better pictures. A sequel was written, but never fully materialized. And boy, am I glad there was no sequel. This was a tremendous piece of shit. And I normally, I try not to knock movies, but this it wasn't good. It was not good at all. I didn't enjoy it. I'm sure this has a cult following and people love this film out there, but it was not good to me. The only saving grace to this film that I think is in there is Seth Green plays a part in it, and I love Seth Green, so that was the only small little tidbit of this. So that's why it gets, and this is probably my lowest rating I've done so far on the podcast, 0.5 star. So we're gonna go half a virtual reality game out of 5. Not good. Oh, and I just realized I forgot to rate the Kindred. I'm going to give, because we have the dog death, it's getting knocked down. So, Kindred is going to get 4 mutated babies out of 5. Now, a film that I really enjoy and that has come out on Blu-ray recently, and I'm super, super excited. I'm glad I bought it. I love this thing. I just listened to the commentary today, and that was very interesting. I did not know this film was primarily filmed in Michigan, and most of the cast and crew is from Michigan. So that was awesome. I was super, super excited. And we're going to be talking about Mosquito. That's right, Mosquito. 1994. Sorry. Yes, Mosquito, 1994. A violent massacre caused by human sides. Let me start over. After an alien spaceship crash. Let me start over again. After an alien spaceship crash lands on Earth and leaks blood into the ecosystem that the mosquitoes drink, they turn into giant human-sized mosquitoes and force the lone survivors to band together in a fight for survival as the mosquitoes continue their onslaught. This film had a lot of deaths in it, a lot of off-screen deaths, unfortunately, but some really cool practical effects. And we've got Gunnar Hansen. Leatherface himself is in this film, plays a good role in this, wields a chainsaw at some point, so worth it just for that. The practical effects on this blew me away. Some of the kills in this are gruesome and gross and totally worth it. Super happy, super excited. This was just so much fun. I loved this film. Like I said, for a film that has so much practical effects in it, you'll win me over with practical effects every time. This is one I saw when I was younger, probably in my, let's say 10 to 13 area. And I loved this movie. I thought it was awesome back then. And watching it today, even with the commentary on, just watching, listening to the stories and all that, and still just watching the practical effects and everything, I love it even more. Still to this day, awesome film. Definitely recommend Mosquito. Some behind the scenes, Matt Hundley was not the first choice to do special effects for this film. Halfway through, the original special effects artist said, "I'll be right back. I'm going to get a pack of smokes," and never came back. Okay. Gunnar Hansen, like I said earlier, Gunnar Hansen picks up a chainsaw and kills some mosquitoes with it. And of course, Hansen played Leatherface in the original 1974 Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Director Gary Jones had originally planned for much bigger ideas with the original screenplay, many of which had to be scrapped when the budget was severely slashed. The film was supposed to open with a massive bank heist gone wrong shootout that would have resulted in the death of a fourth member of Earl's posse, who we never see. We were to see the mosquito horde attack Detroit, Michigan, and a military base with disastrous results. Also, the corpses of those who had been killed by the mosquitoes would have been reanimated back to life as flesh-eating zombies, and those who had just been stabbed by a mosquito and survived would slowly become zombies themselves. The last idea was not only removed due to budgetary constraints, but because the filmmakers felt it distracted too much from mosquitoes. They wanted a giant mosquito movie, not a giant mosquito/zombie movie, which I'm glad. It's an interesting concept, but I'm glad they didn't do that. Although, if the corpses ended up looking like some of the ones that were really cool in this, that would have been actually kind of cool to see those kind of zombies. Anyways, the original title for this movie was Skeeters. Of course, this was changed when they found out that another film was being made at the same time called Skeeter. So the other working titles were Night Swarm and Blood Fever, and there's a little story about how after they made the film, they were like, "Oh, Blood Fever, we'll do Blood Fever," and they were like, "Nah, we can't call it that." So then The director was like, Night Swarm, that sounds awesome. And they went to Hollywood, and Hollywood was like, no, this movie's called Mosquito. Night Swarm is stupid. And they were like, oh, okay. But then they were like, oh, actually, Mosquito is a good title for this. So, worked out in the end. The rig, this is really funny. I thought this was interesting. The rig used to make the giant mosquitoes look like they were flying around was nicknamed the Boom of Doom. That's awesome. I'll give you one or two more, and then I'll give you my rating on it, and I think that'll be enough for Mosquito. This poor girl. Margaret Gommel had a camera accidentally dropped on her head during the filming of her nude scene in the tent, and that poor girl suffered so much. Her death is very violent, and, well, just watch and see what happens to her. This film is kind of famous. It's a little bit known for what happens to that poor girl. Gunnar Hansen, and I love this, would later go on to say that Mosquito was his favorite film that he acted in, and Earl was the best character he ever played. They, in the commentary, they talk about a story of how, like, it was the first day Gunnar was supposed to be on set, and they're like, oh, Gunnar Hansen's coming, you know, we gotta be professional, be prepared, you know. This is Gunnar Hansen, he's Leatherface, you know, we're probably gonna be super intimidated by him. And he, like, got out of the car and was like, hey, everybody, what's up? And was just, like, the nicest guy ever. So that makes me so happy to hear, because I'm a huge Gunnar Hansen fan. And to find out he was just super cool is awesome to me. I'm going to throw in one more, probably maybe two more film reviews. This whole month, or at least the next few weeks to couple months, is going to be just 80s and 90s film trash, and then we're going to get back into paranormal and comic books and stuff. But for those that, you know, have been listening and been kind of paying attention on social media, know that I had that mental breakdown. Things are getting better. I have made some changes for the better. I can't announce that yet. That announcement is coming very soon, but I have to admit, like, these trashy horror movies have been kind of helping me continue to go, alongside some pretty good podcasts like What's Up Weirdo, The Horror Show, Evolution Horror, Brain Rot, you know, just the stuff I've recommended before. Just, you know, those podcasts have kept me going. My family and all the support that everyone has given me has just kept me going, and I really, truly, truly appreciate it. And I thank you so very much. Thank you so much. Oh, before I forget, Mosquito is going to get 4.5 dead aliens out of 5. But yeah, we'll do a couple more reviews, and then I think we're gonna say goodbye. And then next week will be more trashy film reviews. I'm probably gonna, you know, stagger it a bit, like, you know, a movie I liked, a movie I wasn't a big fan of, movie I liked, wasn't a big fan of. Kind of do that, or do kind of some wraparound something to kind of change it up, change the format a little bit, so it's not just me droning on and on to you all. So here we go. Let's talk about the Loch Ness Horror, made in 1982. I remember seeing a trailer of this film a long time ago on I think it was a VHS, called Fantastic Dinosaurs of the Movies and TV. I was pretty young, and I was like, oh my god, I gotta check this movie out. It looks great, it looks awesome. And I finally watched it. I found it on YouTube, watched the whole thing, and I gotta say, I'm glad I watched it to satisfy something I've been wanting to see for years, but I was hoping it'd be one of those, it's so bad it's good. It started out that way, and then towards the end, it makes a very strange twist and then just ends. So it was almost like they were like, oh shoot, we gotta end this film. How do we do that? I know, we'll do this thing, and then boom, done, end. And it was like just so abrupt. I was like, oh, okay. But basically the premise is stupid Americans go to Loch Ness. They a couple divers end up finding Nessie, They go scuba diving in her lair. One of them gets eaten, and the other one steals her egg, which causes her to go on a rampage. Don't mess with Mama. You just leave it alone. Come on, people. I've been studying the paranormal for years. If you find a creature's eggs, just leave it alone. Don't think about that almighty dollar. Blah, blah, blah. Leave it alone, people. Okay. So this has an interesting cast of characters. You've got a lead research scientist from Texas who adds very little to the film. You've got this old man hunter, which he was pretty cool. His name is Jack. They pretty much, so if you've ever heard of the surgeon's photo, which is like one of the, earliest pictures of Nessie, which turned out to be fake, but in this film they claim that he's the one that took the photo originally, and he's been, just him and the monster have this like kinship kind of thing. And there's a scene where he gets attacked, and of course Nessie apparently watches this from the water and attacks his attacker. So yeah, they have some kind of weird kinship, but his character is actually pretty interesting. He's all about protecting the monster, stuff like that, which is pretty cool. And apparently he's insane too at some point, because he reenacts some kind of battle from the war every night. I don't know. I don't quite understand that plot line they went with. And then I'm not going to give the ending away because it's just so abrupt, it's pointless. But then something happens and you're like, oh, okay, I remember that from the beginning. Now that's coming into play. And then it's like, boom, end. So yeah, it was okay. The version I watched was literally someone putting on a VHS and then taping it off their TV. So it was dark throughout the entire film, but at least I got to see it. I have to say that one thing I am what I think is pretty cool is the Nessie puppet. They actually have little ears on it to make it look like a water horse, which, hey, that's cool, because most films that talk about Nessie, they just make her a plesiosaur or, just like a brontosaurus, which we all know brontosaurus and brachiosaur and all that. They're not amphibious, they're not aquatic. Anyways, the Nessie puppet, which was just a head on a stick, was later used as Jack the Ripper in one of the Bullshit or Not segments in Amazon Women of the Moon. The Loch Ness Horror, it's a 1981 horror movie directed by Larry Buchanan, who had a reputation for filming poorly made films and even proclaiming himself the Schlockmeister. Yes, this is a very schlocky film. The film is infamous for its poor special effects, meandering story, awful use of California doubling for Scotland, and the fact that, as with almost all of his films, Larry Buchanan uses members of his family in front of the camera and behind it, whether they are suited to the task or not. Okay, the special effects, they're not that terrible. The decent underwater puppet is cool, but yeah, the one that's like when Nessie is on land and moving, it's clearly just like a stick with stuff wrapped around it. Very interesting. There is a young lady who is Jack's granddaughter, and she's supposed to be Scottish, and you can't understand a single word she says. I had subtitles on, and even the subtitles couldn't understand it. I don't know if she was really Scottish or just faking it, but holy hell, that was insane. It's got some decent kills. There's one that makes no sense to me. It started off with Nessie chomping down on his arm, and I'm thinking oh, it's gonna rip his arm off. That's cool. And then it cuts to the guy has his head in Nessie's mouth, and then he just falls over and dies. So I don't know what they were getting at there. And the size of Nessie also tends to change throughout the film, because there is a underwater sequence where Nessie can put someone almost fully into her mouth. So yeah, there are some discrepancies in that. But all in all, for seeing, a trailer I saw when I was younger and just always wanting to see the film, the trailer was probably better than the film itself. I give this one 2 Nessie eggs out of 5. I'm glad I watched it just so I can scratch it off my list, but I don't think it'll be something I ever put on again. If you're interested, it is on YouTube. The quality is shit, and yeah. But other than that, it's okay. If you're a dinosaur fan and you want to see it for that, don't go in expecting a ton. I just recommend looking up the trailer, and you'll probably get more enjoyment out of the trailer than you will the actual film. Let's talk The Abomination, and what an abomination of a film it truly is. Made in 1986, this ultra low budget movie is just trash. And unfortunately, it's not even the trash that you can be like, oh, it's so trashy, it's so bad it's good. This was just terrible. A middle-aged woman is diagnosed with a tumor by a charismatic preacher. She vomits up what she believes to be the tumor. The tumor turns out to be a strange spore of sorts that can grow into a carnivorous creature. This spore makes its way inside her son's body and now makes him brutally kill people to feed the other spores, which grow into strange creatures. That's the whole movie. And it's boring and long. It's an hour and 20 minutes long, and I'll never get that time back. The only thing I will give it credit for is this is a super low budget, shot on VHS film. The practical effects are decent. For the budget, they did a good job. At first, it kind of made it seem so it seems like this young man is being interviewed, by the police or something, and he's talking about how he's gone on this killing spree, and he's done it because this abomination has grown inside of him, and then it exits out of him and grows into this just a giant mouth with teeth and looks bloody, and I don't know, that thing was cool. But I thought this was going to end up being oh, this is just in his mind, this is his excuse for being a serial killer or whatever. Nope. It turns out that this thing is real, and it has to eat people, and he has to bring them to people to eat. And it's weird, and it's not good. I did not enjoy this at all. Unfortunately, I was hoping for something decent, and this was just pure trash. I did not like this film at all. Like I said, the only thing going for it is the special effects, and it is super gory and gross. That is the only thing going for it. So, if you're interested in seeing any of it, it is on YouTube. I highly suggest trying to find a supercut of just the gore effects and what the creatures look like. That is about the only saving grace of this film. Other than that, it's dubbed over. There's a lot of shots of just like, you can tell they just, oh, we got to make this like over an hour, so let's just linger on this shot here forever and not do anything with it. And here we have a bloody puppet. Let's just flail it around on the ground and it'll flip-flop, and that should be enjoyable for 5 minutes straight. Yeah, no. This was one of those films that I just came across YouTube looking for like obscure 80s. Excuse me. Looking for like obscure 80s horror films, and yeah, I found this one. And I'm sorry I found this one. This was bad. And I mean bad. I regret watching this. I've give this 0 out of 5. And I don't really give many things 0 out of 5, but this gets a 0 out of 5. This was horrible, and I wasted like almost 90 minutes watching it. And I'm going to beg you, don't waste your time with this. I feel bad for saying that because I'm not a filmmaker, and someone made this film, and people started in it, and the effects... Jesus, excuse me. And there's a decent effects crew. I'll give them that. There's a decent effects crew, but other than that, well, actually what I'm trying to say is I don't want to berate someone or belittle someone for going out and making a film. Hey, you did something cool. You made a film. You made a terrible film. I'm sorry. I can't stand this movie. This was pure stupidity. I would have rather watched paint dry than have watched this movie. And I think I'm going to YouTube paint drying videos just to palate cleanse myself. So yeah, that was The Abomination. Terrible movie. Absolutely terrible. I hope I never, ever put myself through that again. So, that is The Abomination. And actually, I'll be honest, like I recorded that review a few weeks ago, and I completely forgot I even watched that movie. So when I was listening back, I'm like, what is The Abomination? What am I talking about? So I had to look it up, and I was like, oh my God, this piece of shit? Oh, I totally forgot about it. And it's like, I think earlier in the podcast, I said I gave something like half a star or whatever, and that was the lowest. No, The Abomination gets the lowest. It's a 0 out of 5. That was a terrible movie. Super gory, which, I would have let it some credit, but it's not a good movie. It's just not enjoyable at all. Like I was hoping at the end there was going to be something that turned it around, but no, nothing. Just disgusting. And normally I like disgusting movies. I don't mind disgusting and gross out and all that at all, but this one just did nothing for me, unfortunately. But yeah, this was an abomination of a film for sure. But yeah, that's it for this week. Thanks for hanging in there. I truly appreciate all the support I've been given. You guys, everyone that has reached out to me, I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so very, very, very much. I love you all. We'll see you next week with more trashy films, some good, some bad, some mediocre. See you next week.